This is part 2 of LINQ tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss different ways of writing LINQ queries. To write LINQ queries, we use the LINQ standard query operators. Here are a few examples of them: select, from, where, order by, etc. There are a lot more than this. For the full list of all the LINQ standard query operators, please check the MSDN website. There are two ways to write LINQ queries using these standard query operators. One, using lambda expressions. We discussed what lambda expressions are in detail in part 99 of C# tutorial. If you are new to lambda expressions, I would strongly encourage you to watch that video first. Another way of writing LINQ queries is by using SQL-like query expressions. From a performance perspective, there is no difference between the two. Which one to use purely depends on your personal preference. If you are from a SQL Server background, then probably you will like using SQL-like query expressions. But keep in mind, behind the scene, LINQ queries written using SQL-like query expressions are translated into their lambda expressions before they are compiled. All these standard query operators are implemented as extension methods on IEnumerable of t interface. This means that on all the types that have implemented IEnumerable of t, we should be able to use these LINQ standard query operators. For example, arrays implement IEnumerable of t. Non-generic collection classes that are present in system.collections namespace, like ArrayList, hashtable, they also implement IEnumerable of t. Generic collection classes like list, dictionary, etc., they also implement IEnumerable of t. This means that on all these types, we should be able to use all these LINQ standard query operators. In a later video session, we'll discuss what extension methods are and how to write our own extension methods on a given type in detail. But for now, let's just focus on writing LINQ queries using these two different ways. For this demo, we'll be using this student class. It's a straightforward class with three auto-implemented properties here: ID, name, and gender. And we also have got the static method getAllStudents, and this method is returning list of student. This list class, it's a generic collection class which is present in system.collections.generic namespace, and all the generic collection classes implement IEnumerable of t, so we should be able to use the standard query operators on list of student. Okay, I have already typed the code required for the student class to speed things up, so let's copy that code and let's flip to Visual Studio. So here I have an empty ASP.NET Web Application project. All I have done so far is added this web form, dragged and dropped a grid view control, and I have selected colorful scheme. So now to this project, let's go ahead and add a class file, and let's call this student.cs. And let's paste in the code that we have just copied. And this class is pretty straightforward. So there we have the three auto-implemented properties. GetAllStudents is a static method returning list of students, and the first thing that we are doing is creating a list of student object, and then we are creating several student objects in line here and populating the properties. So we have got one male student at the moment, so 1, 2 and 3 male students, and we have got 2 female students. So all we are doing is creating the student object and then adding it to this list. Okay, so after we are done creating all the students, we are returning that list back. So pretty straightforward method there. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to display all the male students within this grid view control. So keep in mind there were 3 male students, so we want to display all of them in the grid view control. So let's see how to write a LINQ query. So first we'll look at writing it using lambda expressions. So student class, this one has got getAllStudents, and notice what it is returning. It is returning list of student. So if you look at list class, and if we go to the definition on this list class, notice that this list class actually implements IEnumerable of t, which means on list of student we should be able to use those query operators. Okay, so on the student class, let's invoke that getAllStudents method, and then what we want to do is retrieve only the male students. So I'm going to use the where standard query operators, and then here we pass in a predicate. So what kind of students do we want? We want all the students who are male. So here I'm going to specify a variable called student. You can give this variable any name you want, so I'm calling it student. So student such that student dot gender equals male. So this where method is going to return an I enumerable of students. It's going to return all male students. Okay, so let's go ahead and store the query results in I enumerable of student, and let's call this maybe query result. Okay, and we want to display these students in a grid view control, so all you need to do is grid view 1 dot data source equals that query result and invoke data bind method. That's it. Let's go ahead and run this. So here we're using a lambda expression. So notice that it only displays the 3 male students. Now let's see how to rewrite this query using SQL-like expressions. So instead of using a lambda expression like this, I can rewrite the same query using SQL-like syntax. So we use the from keyword first. From give a variable. This variable is called range variable. We'll discuss what is meant by range variable in detail in a later video session. For now, let's continue with the query. So from student in this collection. So student dot get all students, which is returning list of students. So what we want to do is where student dot gender equals male. So we only want such kind of students. Now if I end the query here, we are going to get a compilation error. Look at what the error says. A query body must end with a select clause. So if you are using SQL-like expression, a query body should end with a select clause. So you have filtered the student, but what you want to select that student. So we use the select keyword. So select student. And that's it. So let's go ahead and run this. This time we should have the same results. Here we are using SQL-like query expressions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.